A friend of mine contacted me about designing and building an American flag coin rack to be a retirement gift for her husband who is retiring after 20 years of service in the Army. The only one she had found online wasn't a very good replica of the flag, and much smaller than what she was looking for. I found a website that I was able to get all the ratios to make sure this coin rack was going to be as close to realistic and to scale as an actual American flag. To represent the colors of the flag, I chose walnut for the blue, sapelli for the red, and maple for the white. To make assembly of the flag a little easier, I chose to first make 3 smaller panels and then glue them together to make one larger panel. Unfortunately, I lost some of the footage of this build to a freak GoPro accident involving a sharp spinning blade. But that's a story for another time. The prep work for each of the panels was done the same way, first by cutting the rough stock down to a manageable size, and then joint, plane, and cut each of the panel parts down to final dimensions. The first panel is being made completely of walnut, and the second panels with alternating sapelli and maple boards. Making each of the boards perfectly aligned as the panels are glued up will really help later on with the amount of sanding that is needed. And since I don't have a wide drum sander, I'm sure you get the picture. I'm using biscuits in this project to help me get my boards aligned. I really don't put much stock in the biscuit argument since 1, it makes aligning panels really easy, and 2, it goes good with gravy. This is the same technique that can be used with making just about any wide panel, to include a tabletop. It's important to not only get good glue coverage over the entire length of the joint, but also in the biscuit slots. These biscuits are made from compressed beech, and they'll expand with the moisture from the wood glue. As you can see here, with such a long panel, it'd be hard to keep each board aligned during the glue up. Now this isn't the only way you can keep your panel straight. You could use tongue and groove like they do in flooring. You could use dowels. You could even use the Festool Dominal. But let's be honest here, I don't see that tool appearing in my shop anytime soon. Well, unless I win the lottery. But my wife keeps telling me that my chances would increase a little by maybe buying a ticket. Not only does gluing up wide panels in sections make it easier to keep everything aligned, but depending on your clamp collection, a large complex glue up like this project would have been a nightmare if I had attempted it all at once. With my second panel and the clamps, I can sand down my first panel. From here, it's just repeating the same steps with the second, and then finally the third panel. With the third panel and the clamps, I can start working on the stars. I start off by joining one face of the maple board to give me a flat surface to register on my fence as I resaw it on the bandsaw. Then it's off to the thickness planer to make a parallel face and get the stock to the desired thickness. To cut out each of the 50 stars to the flag, I use my Shapeoko 2 CNC machine. This can just as easily be done on a scroll saw, bandsaw, or even a jigsaw. But this is one time I'm really glad to have a CNC in my shop. Cutting out 50 stars by hand is not on my list of fun things to do. Hell, cutting 50 of anything gets a little repetitive. With the third panel out of the clamps, I sanded the panel and then prepared all 3 panels to be joined. Unfortunately, I lost all the video of this, but it's pretty much the same as making the sub-assemblies. The only difference is, with this project, I not only have parallel joints, but one perpendicular joint. At this point, I can cut the flag down to its final dimension, and then sand the entire panel. I had to bust out my project calculator to figure out the spacing for the rows of stars. The stars were then glued and pin-nailed in place. Again, another section of video that was lost. I then sanded the points down to give them a more three-dimensional look. To make the trays that hold the coins, I use maple boards that are cut to length, and then a 1/4-inch stop dado is cut into it using the router table. I have my fence set to keep my spacing for the dado, and the opening of the fence to give me a start and finish point for the stop dado. To save material, I cut 2 dados, one on either side of the board, and then rip it down the center on the table saw. To give the trays a softer look, I round over the ends with the random orbital sander, then use a custom-made sanding block to clean up the dados. I then break all the other edges with a sanding pad. To attach the trays to the panel, I use a trick where I use wood glue and hot melt glue. The hot melt glue holds the trays in place while the wood glue cures. I use a scrap piece of wood to act as a spacer to make sure all the trays are aligned against the end of the panel. Now, just to make sure the trays don't go anywhere, I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of brads through the back. As a finish, I'm using several coats of spray lacquer. This is always one of my favorite parts of a project. I just love how the grains of the different woods not only pop, but also contrast more under the finish.